We will now enter the debate section. As a reminder, each candidate will have 60 seconds to respond to the initial question posed, 30 seconds to ask a question of their opponents, and 30 seconds to respond to an opponent's question. As a point of order, you can refuse to ask a question, however, you cannot refuse to answer a question. Follow-up questions must remain on the topic of the moderator's question. We will draw you back in if you start to deviate. We will now hear from our mayoral candidates, Richard Stewart, Lou Sikora, and Mark Mahovlich. We'll have 12 minutes to vote into this section. Sorry, come on up, the three of you to the three podiums. So we'll start with a chamber question, which will be answered by Richard Stewart, then Lou Sikora, then Mark Mahovlich. Okay. What can the city do to stimulate denser commercial development, office space, etc.? Richard?
Actually, we're doing quite a bit in that regard. One of the challenges that we all face in the suburbs is we don't have enough of the office jobs here. And the big challenge that causes that actually is the amount of office space that gets built downtown. We're working with the regional growth strategy at Metro Vancouver, trying to diffuse that and try to put more of the office space in our suburbs and in our city center. We want the jobs, the office jobs, right here in the city center near SkyTrain stations, where the density of office jobs and the density of residential help support the better use of transit. So we're, in that regard, encouraging development of office space and freeing up some of the requirements the developers might face related to office space.
Thank you, Richard. Lou Sikora, you have 1 minute.
Thank you very much. The fact is that, when I was the mayor, I chased businesses to come to Coquitlam. I chased hotels, restaurants, different buildings, and that's what I do, is bring some office space to Coquitlam. There's no question about it. But you'd not be sitting in the office and tweaking to every newspaper, every news media to try to get your name in a paper or get a camera on your neck to get some pictures taken. I'm not going to be that kind of mayor. I'll be a hands-on mayor, and I'll be chasing every business that we can bring to Coquitlam. We lost in Coquitlam the last year 500 jobs. How did we do that? Business moved out. The taxes are too high. So certainly as far as office space is concerned, we've got land right across the city hall, 5.5 acres. That's certainly be a prime location for the office space. Thank you.
Thank you, Lou. Mark Mahovlich, you have 1 minute.
Yes, as a tradesman and a contractor, subcontractor within the city for over 2 decades, the issue is space. We're running out of space. So the main area is to get residential and commercial on the bottom, residential on the top, and create a city right within the infrastructure of the actual building. And a lot of buildings now, the high rises, they don't build to accommodate this. They've already, allocated the space for the structure. They need to incorporate it with business and office space at the lower levels, i.e., like a 5-story as opposed to just a 20-story high rise. You have different levels. That has always worked on the jobs that I've seen, and Coquitlam doesn't seem to do that. And that'll densify business with residential, so you can work, basically live above where you work. Makes a lot of
Thank you, Mark. That's 1 minute. Richard Stewart, if you'd like to pose a follow-up question, you have 30 seconds to do so.
Since about, for the last decade and a half, we've been, as a council, trying to lower the differential between business rates and business tax rates and residential rates. About a decade and a half ago, it was about 6.5 times the residential rate was what businesses were paying. They were paying 6.5 times the residential tax rate. We've lowered it to about four times the residential tax rate. How would you get it lower than that? How do we accelerate the speed at which we can close that gap?
Thank you, Richard. Lou Sikora, you have 30 seconds to answer that
Thank you very
question.
much. The fact is that, the mayor just, he's mixing words. The fact is, when I was the mayor in the 80s and the 90s, the residential taxes was the bottom of 23 municipalities. The commercial taxes were halfway up from 23 municipalities. Now our commercial taxes are way above everywhere in Canada. The residential taxes are about 3/4 of the way. So the mayor can mix a lot of figures and throw figures around, and that's what he's good at. But that's it. No action.
Thank you, Lou. That's 30 seconds. Mark Mahovlich, you have 30 seconds to answer the
Yes,
question.
I'll respond to that. As far as I'm concerned, Gordon Campbell made a wrong decision to not give the Hollywood producers incentive to film here. We used to shoot a movie. I used to shoot a commercial and movie, 2 or 3 movies or commercials a year, and at least a couple movies a year. And after that, 2008, they decided to go other places in the province and the country.
Mark, can we talk about the discrepancy
Well,
between...
what I'm saying, no, I'm saying that that'll bring. Sorry, now you got me off track. So I'll just say that there's other ways of getting
Okay,
revenue.
well, that's 30 seconds, Mark. I apologize.
Okay.
Lou Score, if you'd like to pose a question on the original topic, for 30 seconds.
On which topic?
So on the initial topic of the question, so the denser commercial development, you may now pose a question to the other 2 candidates. You have 30 seconds to do so.
Well, really, as far as I'm concerned, there's development coming to Coquitlam, and the only thing I'd say to the mayor is the fact is, why is it that the high rises come in and the industrial and the commercials on the bottom, but guess what? For 4,000 square feet of commercial, there's only 4 parking spaces. Can you imagine a commercial business surviving 4,000 square feet with only
You got
4
5
parking
seconds to make it a
spaces?
question.
Those are things like that, as the mayor.
Okay, Richard, if you have 30 seconds.
That's not true. Our parking ratio, sorry, it's not true. Our parking ratios are set up in the bylaw. They establish parking ratios for commercial based on square footage, based also on the type of use, because obviously a restaurant of 4,000 square feet is going to need more parking space than, say, a dentist of 4,000 square feet that couldn't have more than 4 or 5, 6 customers at a time. So essentially that's the flexibility that's built into the bylaw, but it also is the strict adherence that is built into the bylaw.
Thank you, Richard. That's 30 seconds. Mark Mahovlich, would you like to respond to Mr. Sikora's question?
Yes. First, I'd like to say I was going to say lower taxes for business to come to Coquitlam as opposed to raise them. That push the movie industry away.
Okay.
And as far as the parking issue, let's face it. There's no room, so we have to make a leveled, a stacking, parking or underground parking, which is expensive to dig down. So you make elevated parking as similar to the casino in Coquitlam. That'll solve all your problems with parking. All I hear is
Thank you, Mark. That's 30 seconds.
Okay.
If you'd like to pose a question on the stimulation of denser commercial development, you have 30 seconds to do so.
I'd like to propose a question on the development where green spaces there's no concern for green spaces or trees in Coquitlam.
That's not on denser commercial development, if you can stick to that
So we're
subject, please.
still on that topic?
Yes,
I'm
sir.
sorry, I thought we were moving
No.
on.
You've got 10 seconds.
Well, I guess I'll leave it at that. I had, answered
Okay,
that.
thank you very much, sir. Now we will move to a public question, and we'll just bring it up on the screen here. First one. Okay, so we'll start with Richard Stewart. Do you support a 0% property tax increase?
Absolutely. If we can get our cost increases down to 0%, the challenge, of course, that every municipality faces is we have QP contracts, for example. We had 3 years in a row where the QP increase was 4%, and it's absolutely impossible then to wrestle the tax increase down to 0% if QP gets that kind of raise. We also have, of course, inflation, downloading of costs from the provincial government and the federal government. We just had another download to local government of provincial costs, and we're all trying our best to make sure that we're as efficient as possible, but when new costs get dumped on local government, we're stuck.
Thank you very much, Richard. Lou Sikora, you have 1 minute to
Thank you very
respond.
much. The fact is that the mayor doesn't know about zero-based budgeting. That's our problem. Guess what? The treasurer comes into the mayors and the council members and says, we're going to start the budget at 3%. You want more police? Oh, it's going to cost you more. You want more firemen? Yeah, it'll cost you more. They don't go to zero-based budgeting. Zero-based budgeting is you start at 0 and you build your budget there. And that's what happens right now. We have $1.6 million for consultant fees. We've got managers coming at our ears. Guess what? They're drawing on the consultant fees to tell them what to do. Well, if I am a businessman, I got managers, what I need consultants to tell our managers what to do. So this city hall is loaded with bureaucrats. Just overloaded. That city hall was built for 2025. It was filled up within 3 years. We now have to go to Ottawa.
Thank you, Luke. Mark Mahovlich, would you like to answer the question?
Yes, I'd like to respond to that. The waste at City Hall is absolutely unacceptable. As a contractor, if I would have ran my business like the city runs theirs, I would have been broke in the first week. And the fact is that the amount of money that the mayor has wasted that I'm aware of, and I'm just, you know, I'm just a person that has been involved with City Hall for about 6 years now, dealing with a multitude of issues: unsafe schools, hazmat exposures, trees disappearing, garbage all over the streets, taxes going up. You know, I mean, there's money that these people, like consulting fees, are so extreme. I couldn't believe the numbers. And these taxes, they're paying for this. And why is this continuing? I mean, this is absolutely unacceptable. And I have seen it repeatedly in the paperwork. I filed, you know, to obtain documents, and also once I've been sent by City Hall. And it's just absolutely unacceptable. And that is a big reason why taxes continue to go up.
Thank you, Mark. Mr. Stewart, would you like to pose a question to the other candidates on this topic? You have 30 seconds to do so.
Okay. Well, actually, let's go to the consultant fees, because of course, if you bring in a consultant, let's say you have you need some expertise on some particular issue, say the engineering of a structure, you bring in a consultant, that's in the consultant budget. If you didn't bring in the consultant, you'd have to hire staff in order to do that, or else who does the work if the consultants, if you don't bring in an engineering consultant to design that structure?
Mr. Sikora, you'll have 30 seconds to respond.
The fact is that, guess what? One of our consultants that was hired as a consultant, he picked the brains of the staff at the work yard. Guess what? He became a manager. They hired him as a manager, a consultant, becoming a manager in the city. That's what happens with our consultant fees. If you want a job, you become a consultant for the city, and then you become a manager of that department. And that's what's happening there. You're out of control. You're out of control. You have no idea what's going on.
Yeah. Okay, Mr. Sikora, your 30 seconds is up. If we could refrain from blatant personal attacks. Mark Mahovlich, would you like to answer the question about consultant fees? You have 30 seconds to do so.
Yes, consulting fees, as again, I'll say, I was, Finn Donnelly and I, whom is a personal friend of mine, they created a tree protection or tree management bylaw in 2008, which cost $50,000. I went to City Hall because me, Reed, wanted to amend that act and waste $50,000 and slaughter all the trees.
Mark, this is about the 0%.
Okay, anyways, the point is the consulting fee was $20,000 when I went into City Hall to ask for a tree, to look at.
Mark, that's 30 seconds.
And it was $20,000.
Mark, that's 30 seconds.
Sorry.
Luke, if you'd like to pose a question on the topic of a 0% property tax increase, you have 30 seconds to do so.
Well, I can tell you, I've got in my brochure the fact that they lowered the budget by 5%. What does that mean on your taxes? 5%. That's what it means. And I can guarantee you that in the first year, I'd go to zero-based budgeting, and our
Mr.
taxes
Sikora, do you have a
would fall.
question for the other candidates?
Pardon?
Is this a question for the other candidates?
No,
Okay, please pose it as a question.
Okay, the question is for the mayor.
Perfect, for both of us.
Just, okay,
Okay, the one, right here. This little paper that you put out in Snap.
okay. Can we get to the question? You're at your 30 seconds.
It's got figures in here. It's got figures here that are totally untrue. Why would you put fictitious figures in there?
Yeah, okay, Luke, that's it. Luke, we're cut off here, so unfortunately, Richard, if you'd like to respond to what was there, you have 30 seconds.
Well, it's going to be hard for Mark to answer that question.
Yeah, I can't
Okay.
answer that question.
But I didn't put anything fictitious in there, and actually, I know you've raised those questions. You raised them last night. You, for example, said we didn't hire 34 cops. We've gotten rid of cops, and in fact, it's very obvious that we can show every single year that we have brought in new police. In fact, 3 years in a row, we brought in 6 new police officers for a total of 34. The same thing with the fire that you criticized or that you questioned last night. We brought in 2 companies of firefighters. There are 20 firefighters that we bring.
Thank you, Richard, that's 30 seconds. Mark, would you like to comment on that at all? You have 30
Can you
seconds.
repeat the question? No, I just wanted to make sure, because the last time you asked a question and I didn't quite understand.
Okay.
As far as the police and fire, how am I do not know, because I'm not working at City Hall. I do not know what the numbers are. That is not what I've been involved in as far as city issues at City Hall, so I can't comment on that.
Okay. Would you like then to pose a question to the other candidates on the support of a 0% property tax increase? If so, you have 30 seconds to do it.
I'm supportive of 0% property tax. I assume that that's how City Hall works. It's like a Crown Corporation's flat fee was in the past, is not to make money, but not to lose money. And so if you manage money properly,
You have 15 seconds to make it a question.
you can get a 0% tax. Question, now what is the basis of this question I'm supposed to ask?
Sorry, your 30 seconds is complete. You were supposed to ask a question to the candidates on that topic.
Okay, well, I'll ask Richard. How do you propose a 0%?
It's on that question. Okay, I think we're done. Okay, we have completed our 12 minutes. I thank the mayoral candidates for their time here. You may now return to your seats.